We've heard rumors of former NFL coach Bill Cowher possibly coming out of retirement, but I want to talk about another former NFL head coach that could be on the Jets' radar. Should the Jets hire Jim Harbaugh? Jets, Jets! Welcome to Jets Talk. My name is Ryan. I'll be your pilot today. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Guys, today we're talking Jim Harbaugh. I know he is a very divisive name. The fan base seems to be pretty split on him. His time at Michigan has not been what a lot of fans were kind of hoping it would be. And you know what? It sounds like he's on his way out. So let's take a deeper look into Jim Harbaugh and figure out if he could be the answers to our head coaching woes. As the Jets look to add a new head coach in the next season, there's 4 key areas that I think we should be looking into. One is a culture changer. The Jets organization has been absolutely atrocious over the course of the last decade. We need a change of culture. We need someone to be the face of this franchise and really turn this whole franchise around. 2, head coaching experience. NFL coaching experience would be a benefit. Jim Harbaugh happens to have both of that. History of developing quarterbacks. Obviously, with the Jets possibly owning the first or second pick in this year's NFL draft, the Jets are going to be selecting a quarterback, whether that be Fields or Lawrence, and they're going to need someone to come in here and develop this quarterback. And not even just develop the quarterback, but develop talent overall across this whole team. And then 4th overall, I want a leader of men. I want a guy with a proven track record who has won games wherever he's gone, and that's the guy that I want to be my head coach. So let's take a look at Jim Harbaugh. Let's dive into this a little bit deeper. Let's start back at the beginning. 2002 to 2003, he was the Raiders quarterback coach. Yes, he was the quarterback coach for Rich Gannon, who had a career year and took them to the Super Bowl. So, quarterback development, check. 2004 to 2006, he was the head coach of the San Diego Toreros. He had a 29-6 record and was a 2-time Pioneer League champion. That is the first 2 championships that school has had. 2007 to 2010, head coach of Stanford. Had a 29-21 record. Overall, that doesn't sound that great, but when you consider that he took over a team that was 1-11 and he continued to increase their record in each of the preceding 4 years, it means a lot. It really does. Ultimately, he'd wind up winning the Woody Hayes Trophy, the trophy given to the best head coach in the country back in 2010. And by the way, he also scouted and developed former number 1 overall pick Andrew Luck, who was considered the best prospect since Elway and Manning. Is this starting to sound familiar? Yes, because Trevor Lawrence is possibly coming out, and he could be the best prospect since Luck, Manning, and Elway. So let's keep this in mind. 2011 to 2014, Jim Harbaugh is the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. He posts a record of 44-19-1. That's good enough to be the 5th best record of any head coach in NFL history. He takes over that team that went 6-10, a horrible team. They did not do anything leading up to him getting there. Alex Smith is a consensus bust number 1 overall pick. He comes in, he turns Alex Smith into a franchise quarterback and ultimately ends up flipping him for 2 second-round picks. So at the very least, he developed Alex Smith and got good draft assets out of an otherwise wasted prospect. He takes them to 3 straight NFC championship games and a Super Bowl. And if we're really going to nitpick these championship games even further, if Ted Ginn doesn't get hurt in the divisional round of that first championship game, then the 49ers likely don't muff 2 punt returns in the championship game, costing them that Super Bowl bid to the now Super Bowl champion New York Giants. So there's a really good shot that he goes to 2 consecutive Super Bowls. And then even in the Super Bowl that he lost to brother John Harbaugh, which, keep in mind, Joe Douglas was the scout for the Baltimore Ravens at that time. In that game, the 49ers were coming back. And then they had this unprecedented 34-minute blackout. That's when the lights just went off for 34 minutes. The hot streak of the 49ers just kind of fluttered out. And they still wound up in position to the point where they were down on the goal line and throwing the ball on a 4th down to get a potential game-winning touchdown to Michael Crabtree. And one of the most, I don't know if I'll call it blatant, but a really questionable no call in the end zone that could have led to them actually winning that Super Bowl. The following year, they wind up losing to the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC Championship game with a lot more questionable calls. There were a lot of penalties in that game that were not called. So there's a real good shot this guy goes to 3 consecutive Super Bowls if things don't really break the way that they did break. Over those 3 years, he goes 13-3, 11-4-1, 12-9, or 12-4, sorry. He has 9 Pro Bowlers the first year, 9 Pro Bowlers the second year, and 10 Pro Bowlers in that third year. His time in San Francisco really came to a halt because of issues with management, and that was mainly Balky, the GM of the 49ers at that time. He had an absolutely atrocious 2012 NFL draft to the point where their number one overall pick, or their number one first round draft pick, only had one attempted pass or one attempted completion in that entire draft. The 2012 draft class for the 49ers was absolutely horrible. So this is where the divide started to happen and why Harbaugh tried to fight for more player control. And it's really because he had an inept GM that could not draft. So if you think Joe Douglas is a better option, well, we'll have to wait and see. Now, ultimately, his time comes to an end. He winds up being told that he's not going to be retained as the 49ers head coach, and he accepts an offer from Michigan, his alma mater, where he would become the head coach there up until this year. At this point of recording, he is still the head coach, but it seems like they're going to have talks, and more than likely they're going to split at the end of this season. Now, his time in Michigan has been very lackluster for a lot of fans. His overall record is 49-22. He never wound up beating Ohio State, and he was 1-8 against top 10 teams. So he really did not have a great stint at Michigan. And for me, when I'm looking at that, I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, did he at least develop players? Well, he had a bunch of players drafted from his team, which is good. But quarterback-wise, he really didn't have anything. You're talking Shea Patterson. Shea Patterson's probably the best prospect that he had to work with. Shea Patterson was a transfer from Ole Miss. He got there in his third season, coming off a PCL injury. He's, a torn PCL, so he's not even full health. And even then, Shea Patterson goes on to have his two best college career seasons under Jim Harbaugh. So overall, looking at all this stuff that I just laid out in front of you, the guy is a winning head coach. He has multiple years and multiple quarterbacks where he has developed them throughout his career. The guy has a ton of fire. His players love playing for him. So if I'm the Jets and I'm Joe Douglas and Woody Johnson and I'm looking at this whole situation, what am I doing? Well, back in 2009 when we hired Rex Ryan, Jim Harbaugh was on the Jets' radar. There is no secret that Woody Johnson has been infatuated with Jim Harbaugh over the course of his ownership. And I think with him possibly shaking free from Michigan, I think that interest could get sparked back up when Woody returns from the UK. Not to mention that Joe Douglas is very close with John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh's brother. He was the scout in Baltimore during that time. He was against Jim Harbaugh in the Super Bowl that year. Not really against, but he was a scout during that time. So I think there's some familial connections there. At least there's some sort of familiarity. Not to mention former offensive coordinator of Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, is the current offensive coordinator in Baltimore right now. He's another hot name that you could see the Jets possibly look into. Now, with all these different sort of connections that the Jets have, it seems to me like Harbaugh would be a very attractive option for the New York Jets. So if I'm looking at this and I see the Jets bringing in either Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, we got a guy that could be a culture changer, first and foremost. He can put together a coaching staff. He has head coaching experience. He's got NFL head coaching experience, like fifth best all-time head coaching experience from a win percentage perspective. He has a history of developing quarterbacks, and he is an ultimate leader of men. The guys love playing for him. If the Jets somehow get the opportunity to bring Harbaugh into this organization, I'd be all for it. I think it checks off all the boxes. I think it's better than going with an unproven coordinator, which the Jets have done countless times over the last few decades. Guys, let me know what you think about Jim Harbaugh. Did I convince you that he could be a good option here in New York, or are you still of the belief that we should go the coordinator route like a Joe Brady or a Eric Bieniemy or someone like that? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, go Jets.